Everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy. This is the Kizer Barbosa, which is named after a genus of plants, I gather. But anyways, thank you very much actually to Kizer for sending this along. So in the name of full disclosure, Kizer has supplied this knife directly to me for free for review. I, have told them each time that the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly is on the table, and that, I may call it a gem, I may call it junk, but they keep sending knives, so here we go. I've tried not to let this bias my review very much, but I wanted to give you, or really at all, but I want to do full disclosure here. And let's do a little size comparison. First off, we have the Ontario Rat number 2 right here, and the Ontario Rat number 1. Right here we have your Spyderco, which is in the same size range, although maybe a little smaller than your Barbosa. And, yeah, I think that ought to do it for size comparison. Here we go. Steel wheel cut jack in D2 steel. So, anyways, let's go ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of your Kizer Barbosa here. Okay, so on the good side, first off, a weird little thing, but this is actually the first knife under $100 where I've seen ceramic bearings and a ceramic detent ball. It's not something that makes a huge difference, but it is something that's nice to see, and it's good to see Kizer going there, even in the lower-end models, so that's nice. Next thing, the size on this guy is good. You're looking at a blade shape, or a blade length right at around 3 inches here. So, probably closer to 2.75, depending on who you want to measure it, how much the cop dislikes you, but whatever it is, you're looking at categorically under 3. And so it's nice to see smaller options coming out there for us. I'm always a fan of a smaller knife. Next thing, this knife is very heavily textured, both in terms of the G10, which is very grippy, as well as this texturing up top. We're going to talk about that texturing again later on, but it is still very much not going anywhere in your hand. This knife, no matter the conditions, is going to be solid right there for you. So that's good. Next thing, the clip on this guy, although it is kind of a deep carry clip in its construction, although it's not all that deep in the carry. It works very nicely. It's got plenty of spring to it. It stays in the pocket. There's no real complaints with it there. So that's good. The lock bar tension on this guy is good to go. It moves over very readily, and you get about 50% lockup, which can't argue with. The blade on this guy is nice enough. VG10 steel. Here we go. Show that off. And, VG10 is one of those steels. It's fine. It's good to go. Not the highest end, but it works. And so that's good. And frankly, I find the blade on this guy relatively attractive. I think it's a nice shape and profile. And, yeah, so to me at least, that's what's good here, is that the blade is nice enough. The lock bar tension is good. The clip works very nicely as a clip. It's very grippy. It's not going anywhere. The size is good. And it's using all ceramics on the inside here. Let's talk about what's great. To me, the great thing about this knife, 100%, is the action. This is a very, very reliable little flipper. Every time you flip it, it flips. No freaking problem. I've never had a misfire. The detent is just fine. It is just a very, very good little flipper, 100%. It is also unassisted, which means you can close it very easily one-handed, just even a little centripetal force there. Very, very easy to close. Very, very happy. So the action on this guy is great, and that is the great part of this knife. Let's talk about what's bad. Okay, so on the bad side, first off, I am not a big fan of the balance of this knife. The balance is weirdly far back. It's someplace in this vicinity here, and it just means that as you're actually using the knife, it just feels back heavy, and it doesn't quite handle in the way I like to see a really well-made pocket knife handle. It's not a big deal. It's absolutely something you get over, but it is something that's not super pleasant, not something I'm a fan of. Next thing, the ergonomics on this guy are just not very good. You have hot spots everywhere. You've got hot spots off of this texturing here, but the clip is just terribly positioned for ergonomics. With it being down at the front end of this rather than the back end, it's really deeply unpleasant, and it feels terrible in the hand, and so I really dislike grabbing this knife to actually cut with it. I don't like that, ergonomically speaking. And a big part of the reason that the clip is in the bad position is because of the freaking lanyard hole. This is the very definition of a lazy lanyard hole. It's just they decided, oh crap, we need to put in a lanyard hole, just punch something out here. And they did indeed, but in order to do that, they then had to move this clip over here, and having the clip over here is seldom a good idea ergonomically speaking, and it forces this clip to be much lower than it could have otherwise been, defeating its deep caritude. So you end up with a very shallow carry, deep carry clip, which is weird, and then that hurts the ergos. And the funny thing is the blade stops all the way over here, and so you could have very easily just looped the lanyard right around this little standoff here and been fine. And so that just bugs me, is that they put in a lazy lanyard hole and then they had to move the clip to accommodate it, and that hurt the clip and the ergos and everything. That was a big mistake to me, and I dislike that a lot. This is a great prime example of why not every knife needs a lanyard hole, and why putting one in every knife can cause problems. And so to me, that's what's bad here, is that the lazy lanyard hole screwed up the clip, created a bunch of hot spots, and then independently, unfortunately, the balance just isn't where I want it to be. Let's talk about the ugly here. So on the ugly side, this knife has the unfortunate distinction of being a knife that triggered a knife gripe, my knife gripe series with Knife News, and that is because of this texturing back here. Now look, it's a beautiful idea to have a little bit of texturing here where the thumb goes. It helps to keep the knife in the hand and whatnot. But the problem is, on a knife like this with a flipper, every time you flip this knife, your finger then lands up in this texturing. And that's not a beautiful thing. It's like skydiving into a barn filled with broken down construction equipment. I mean, yeah, you can do it, but you're probably going to get impaled on something. And here, indeed, every damn time you do it, you're getting, well, not impaled, that's maybe a little dramatic, but you're landing in this unpleasant rough area back here. It's not a great approach. And so I really wish that they had kind of really limited this texture. Maybe put a little texturing on the blade, put one up here, and then got rid of the rest of this, because it would have been smoother in the pocket. You would have had just as much grip, because your thumb goes up here anyways. Most of this grip isn't being used by your thumb, and it just, I don't know. So I really dislike this texturing, and coupled with the fact that this is a flipper, that's just ugly, ugly, ugly. And so, to me, that's absolutely 100% ugly. This texturing shouldn't have been here, and it interferes with the flipping action. Let's go into your final conclusion. Look, unfortunately, this is a knife where the sum of all the parts add up to something very unimpressive. I mean, at some level, it's fine, it's functional, it cuts things, and the action is very nice here. And so, it's not terrible, but at the same time, even if you just look at this knife in a vacuum, it's got some major flaws. The clip positioning is very funky, both ergonomically speaking and otherwise, because of this damn lanyard hole. The ergonomics are just not great, and this area of jimping just sucks every time you fire the knife. Every time I used it, it was just like, what were you thinking, guys? And then the problem is that when you add in the price, the struggle gets even more pronounced, because Kizer is asking $70 for this knife. And for $70, relative to the competition, this is not great. I mean, $70 could buy you two Ontario Rat 2s or EC Zancudos, which lack a lot of the flaws of this knife, and in the case of the Zancudo, have a serious steel upgrade. $70 could buy you a pair of steel wheel mini cut jacks here, which are inexpensive flippers with a much better steel and a very solid flipping action. And frankly, none of the ergonomic issues. See, they put the jimping up on the back of the blade here. And $70 could buy you a Spyderco Delica, which is one of the very best pocket knives in the world, which has the same steel but better ergos, slightly thinner edge. I mean, heck, even staying within Kizer, if you spend $70 in their Vanguard line, you're likely to get a lot of good without all of these issues. So, in short, I mean, the Barbosa is in a really, really hotly contested chunk of the knife world, and it just doesn't stand out, and it's got a couple of major flaws that cause major problems. So my final conclusion is that the Barbosa, although it's a fine knife, just is a little too flawed with way too much competition for me to want to send you in this direction. Sorry about that, but that's life, unfortunately. Hope this has been interesting to you, and have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.